Hey, everybody. Welcome to May 5th, Military Monday. My name is Bob Wheeler with ClearedJobs.Net, and we are excited to have you. As a matter of fact, Military Appreciation Month is the month of May, and we're getting it kicked off with a great team from General Dynamics IT with us today. Our main guest is Peter Brooks. He's the VP of Talent Acquisition for General Dynamics IT. He's been doing talent acquisition for over 20 years, been at GDIT since 2023, but like any good organization, he rolls deep, and he brought in some help as well. So as part of our discussion, you're also going to maybe hear from Rupali Deshmukh. She's a talent acquisition manager there. We've also got Mike Bernard, a senior talent person, as well as Trudy Perry, a military talent specialist. So that's the team that's with us. We are going to be here on LinkedIn and on other social media platforms for the next 30 minutes talking about military transition tips. If you're with us and you are live and you want to say hello, jump into the chat. Tell us who you are, where you're from, when you're getting out, what you got going on. And as we're talking, if you've got questions, please feel free to throw them into the chat on the LinkedIn platform. If it's a good question, maybe we can bring it in to our live discussion. So let's start off, though, with, like I said, Peter Brooks. You're our primary guest here, Pete. So you want to say hello and tell us about yourself?
Yeah, pleasure. And thank you for the opportunity to meet with you and talk to your audience here today. As you said, I've been in talent acquisition for over 20 years. To be honest, it's closer to 30. So I appreciate the discretion on your part. But for the beginning of my career, I was aligned to commercial business primarily. And when 9/11 happened, I really did some soul searching about where I wanted to take my career, how I wanted to apply my skill sets in a way that would be helpful for the nation. And so I started looking for opportunities to get into public sector recruiting. And after some time, no one really wanted to take a shot at me because I was a commercial person. And so they didn't really think I would, work out well in the aerospace and defense arena. Finally, Booz Allen took a chance on me, and I started my TA career in aerospace and defense. And I've been in aerospace and defense largely ever since. I did make a move a few years ago back into the commercial arena, and honestly, I missed the mission and supporting our armed forces more than I even conceived that I would. And so after some reflection, I decided to throw my hat back in the ring. And at about that time, I got a call from General Dynamics Information Technology, part of the General Dynamics family. They told me to come in and meet with our boss, our big boss. She is a Naval Academy graduate and a Navy officer, veteran. And it's been a pleasure working for her and with the rest of the team in the year and a half since. So it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you had your own transition experience where you were jumping from one organization, well, not just an organization, but jumping from one field in some ways to another. That you've experienced that a little bit, and we're really, really happy to have you and the team here to help us talk to some military veterans. Again, if you're just joining us, I see a lot of people are joining us. We got a lot of people in the chat just basically saying hello at this point and telling us where they're
Excellent.
from. Even got folks from as far away as Korea on with us today.
All right.
So that is great. But if you're just joining us, this is Peter Brooks. We've got him and other folks on his team from General Dynamics IT. We're going to be talking about military transition tips. And the first topic I want to throw out there is, you had mentioned yourself, Peter, just now that you're at General Dynamics Information Technology, part of the General Dynamics family. It's hard enough to transition out and find a job, but sometimes when veterans look at the complex organization, man, that can be really, really daunting. I mean, what's the hiring process like at a complex organization, and how might it be different from maybe like a mom and pop type organization?
Yeah, if I'm honest with myself, I think in HR and talent acquisition, we haven't always done ourselves justice in terms of how we engage in talent acquisition, particularly with people that are making a transition from a completely different environment into more of a private sector or commercial enterprise. Especially if you're a veteran and you've been used to kind of more of a prescribed career track. And if you do X, then you have Y and Z as options, and you have a very kind of delineated trajectory through the organization. And then you make your way into the commercial space, and we're out here saying, well, you're a steward of your own career. Good luck. And maybe there's a careers page, maybe there's some help offered internally, but a lot of times we're leaving people to navigate that terrain by themselves. At GDIT, we're working on some things to really help curate that experience better, and I can go into details on those things. But I would offer, generally speaking, there are some things that I think would be helpful for transitioning veterans to take into account. And some of it is kind of old-fashioned networking. When you think about applying to a company like ours, obviously every company has careers pages, they have LinkedIn profiles, they have social outreach, and all of those are helpful avenues into a company. But a lot of times they're kind of blind alleys, and just like in life, a warm introduction is much better in most cases than a cold one. And so I'd offer you the opportunity to, when you're looking at a company like ours, check out the website, check out the careers page, check out the company's values, and see if they comport with your own. One of the things that I love about GDIT is that I believe it's a place where folks that are very much aligned to a mission can further their career and continue supporting various missions that support our armed services, but in a different capacity. And so if those values comport with you, if you do your research on the company and it seems like a good opportunity for you, by all means, leverage the careers page. But I'd invite you to look for other networking opportunities as well. So most companies have LinkedIn profiles. You can follow those companies' profiles and see what's going on internally. You can also see recruiters, recruiting staff. In my case, we have folks that are 100% dedicated to helping military transitioning military make their transition out of their current responsibilities and into the private sector. You can find all of that through LinkedIn. And so starting to warm up those connections, putting faces with names, making sure that people understand your background, understand the leadership and the agility you've shown in your positions, all of those things flesh out your profile in more tangible ways than just a kind of a cold apply online. I would certainly invite you on our General Dynamics Information Technology career site to go specifically to our section on veterans and military. That has very helpful links that can help you translate your military experience into things that the private sector is going to be more familiar with. It will help make connections and join our talent pool so that you can stay connected to GDIT. And as we have new positions come available, avail yourself of those opportunities. So I definitely would encourage you to do that. And I know that, part of your mission here is to support companies like ours. And one of those things is by having job fairs, career fairs for people that are transitioning. We generally send, good contingents of recruiters out. Take the time to go up and meet with our recruiters, tell your story, highlight your experience, and, help them help you navigate the terrain that is the complex organization of a Fortune 100, 200, 500 company.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anybody else on the team that wanted to tap in on what Peter was just talking about as far as, dealing with veterans specifically and helping them navigate that process?
Oh, sure, Bob. I can add to Peter's comment. GDIT does have, under Peter and Mike's leadership, a robust military hiring team. We have 4 dedicated resources who work on nothing but full-time military events, hiring, and skill bridge resources. I have added my LinkedIn account in the chat box. Please feel free to share it so that the candidates can connect with us post the call. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, Peter had mentioned, really getting to know folks, and whoops, I'm jumping ahead too much there. Let me get back to right here. How you can learn more about GDIT specifically, and Peter, that was something you brought up was job fairs. We're going to talk more about how ClearedJobs.Net has some job fairs coming up, but this is a great time to mention that the one that we have coming up in like 2 days, May 7th, GDIT is going to be there. It's a poly-only event in Maryland. And then there's also a poly-only event coming up in Dulles in June that GDIT is going to also be at. But when someone comes at a job fair, if they're not sure, are you saying they should just basically start talking to those recruiters and say, how do I learn more about the company as well as the jobs?
100%, 100%. I mean, the thing I love about our recruiting team is, first of all, the folks that we have aligned to military and veteran recruiting are, in most cases, veterans themselves and have considerable experience navigating this terrain. And so not only are they geared towards finding candidates to help us fuel our sustainable growth and help support our customers' missions, but they're also passionate about helping people transition in many cases the same way that they had to transition once upon a time. So it's a passion of the team. And so by all means, go up and make yourself available to those recruiters, tell your story, make the introduction, and really consider GDIT as your next career move.
Yeah, and when you talk about careers and you talk about GDIT, I was just looking, when we get prepared for our job fairs, we like to list the positions that the companies are recruiting for specifically at those events. And when I looked at the stuff that is on our site right now for the May 7th event, there were things like, help desk was one of the positions, systems admin, web servers, software developers, different types, Java, things like that. But it really did hit me too that GDIT is more than just poly-only work, and it's more than just software and IT stuff. I looked on our website in general, well over 800 cleared positions on our site, some of them at public trust or secret. I saw things on there, ballistic missile defense and site surveyors. And you guys do a lot of stuff besides just IT, right?
We do. So, I think of GDIT as a mission technology company with a really diverse portfolio. We have thousands of contracts with the government across every domain you can imagine. The DoD is obviously a significant customer of ours, but we also serve the intelligence community, and we also are highly engaged in the federal, civilian, and health organizations that provide vital program support to taxpayers and citizens. And so it's our pleasure to provide support across the technology spectrum in all of those domains. Increasingly, it's probably not a surprise, but we're engaged in leveraging up the stack or more highly sophisticated technologies to support our customers' missions. For example, we deliver AI right now to detect waste, fraud, and abuse in health programs that the federal government is responsible for providing. We do the same thing, leveraging AI in the service of Veterans Affairs. When you look at other parts of the missions that we support, zero trust cyber is a really big domain for us. We do all kinds of comms work, enterprise IT, increasingly quantum is a part of our core technology offering. And so really you look across the dimensions of technology and the services that the government is looking to provide, and we've got core tech capabilities in those domain areas.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, we've got Peter Brooks here with General Dynamics Information Technology. He's the VP of Talent Acquisition. We're talking about lots of different things to include different careers and things like that at GDIT. If you're looking at us in the chat and you want to say hello, let us know. If you have a question, you can let us know. I also saw that Nancy in our background studio there, she just threw up all of GDIT's job listings in the chat. So if you want to look at that stuff, because like we had said, it's, and I think this is something that, I was in the Navy for 20 years and I was in healthcare. I was a corpsman, and my last time I was a recruiter looking for doctors. And until I started working here 10 years ago, I had no idea, how many government contractors there were. Honestly, thought there was like 5, GDI, General Dynamics maybe being one of them, but still I had no idea. And I also remember really being floored by, you can't just look at the name of the company and think that's all that they do. The GDIT, well, I don't do information technology, so I don't need to go talk to them. like we said, we had looked at some of those other job postings, program managers, program analysts, customer service people. You guys are so huge. You do it all, really. You do so much stuff.
Yeah, well, and first of all, I appreciate your service. Thank you so much. And my mom, I just put up a post on Friday. You mentioned that it's Military Appreciation Month, and so I put up a post on Friday to give a tip of the hat to my mom, who was a nurse in Vietnam. She served in 1966 and 67, saved countless lives in theater, and then came back to Walter Reed Hospital to work with military veterans who've been wounded in combat. And so, that's the kind of experience that really inspires me. That's what got me motivated to do what I do for a living. And so, thank you for your service, and especially in that military arena. I know veterans in harm's way are dependent on that kind of care. So
and they're dependent on you guys too. I mean, you're supporting the war fighters too. And I know I'm going to assume that mission might be one of the things you had mentioned too, how much the mission meant to you, Peter, coming back into the government contracting space to begin with. One of the questions that we had was just, why is GDIT a good place for veterans, in general, maybe not just not a specific job, although you've got tons of those, but just the general feel of being a good fit for transitioning veterans. What would you say to that as far as why GDIT?
Yeah, I think, across the thousands of programs that we participate in, there are all kinds of examples of meaningful ways that we support the warfighter. I would say at a macro level, in a general sense, GDIT is a very, very friendly veteran employer. I've had the opportunity to work with several government contractors around the Beltway. I don't have a bad word to say about any of them. They all care passionately about the missions they support. But I will say, at GDIT, I have the advantage of working alongside many veterans in the core work that we do. So over 30% of our employee base is veterans, and over 35% of our hiring every year, those folks are military veterans as well. So it's really part of our DNA. And those of us who didn't serve, we're here because we believe in those missions. We believe in supporting them. And so it's a really it's a passion that lies outside of kind of your day-to-day work. I'm a recruiter by trade. I'd like to think that I'm a good one. But the thing that inspires me, the thing that gets me out of bed and gets me fired up to do the best job I can, is supporting the work that we do for our customers and for the warfighter. So that is a huge opportunity for veterans to come home, I think, to a place that they can recognize. I would say a second thing is our investment in people. So, when I interviewed at GDIT, the first time I got recruited, the executive recruiter reached out to me, and I said, listen, I just moved back into a commercial company. I moved into a small consulting firm, and it was a really good group of people. And I felt like it was time for me to try something a little different. I was missing the mission, like I said, pretty terribly. And got that recruiting call, and I said, look, I've only been out for a year. I feel like I have some more work to do, and then maybe I can come back. And they said, well, look, Peter, GDIT is doing some really amazing things, and Amy is an amazing leader, Amy Gilliland, our president. And they said, if you took the opportunity to meet with her, I think you would relish that opportunity. And if you passed on it and met her later, you would rue the day that you passed that opportunity. So I took the meeting, and I agreed. I mean, Amy is such a passionate leader, believes strongly in our employees, and really has created a culture here that is designed to be a company with a soul, that we operate not just for profit and loss and for our shareholders, but for the missions of our customers, and that we treat our employees fairly and with respect. And that's the kind of thing that motivates me. Hopefully that will resonate with some of your your listeners here,
Yeah.
especially if they're transitioning out of the military.
Sounds good. Hey, we did have a question that came in, and I'm not sure. It's a relatively specific question, so I don't know if it can be answered here, but we will throw it out there just to see. So I'm not. So
Sure.
Peter, Trudy, Rapula, I'm not putting anybody on the spot here, but it's a question about SkillBridge, which is SkillBridge is
Yeah.
something that is pretty common, but I know that when I talk to transitioning veterans, no one seems to have a full grasp, but there's always questions about it. And so the question was, am I allowed to attend a SkillBridge in the U.S. Embassy? Now, I don't know if GDIT may not have anything to do with embassies at all. I will say that SkillBridge is one of those things that it's almost anything can be a SkillBridge position if a company wants to make it that.
Yeah.
But it's not position by position. So it could be, but it doesn't mean that it always is. And that's my knowledge on that. I don't know. Is there anybody out there, Peter, Trudy, probably that has a better explanation than that?
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Trudy and Rupali here, since they are working SkillBridge programs all the time. But I will say, we have a tremendous track record with SkillBridge. Last year, we converted more than 60 SkillBridge interns into full-time employees. It was over a 97% kind of graduation rate, if you will. I know the Pentagon looks generally to have a 70 or 80%. So we're performing well above kind of that norm. And certainly when we open SkillBridge opportunities, the view is to make that a first step in a career with GDIT. Trudy, anything else you would add?
So some of our limiting factors are going to, of course, be what's available when that service member is transitioning. So that's going to be our first action. Our second action is if we have that type of contract that you're looking for. So, yes, there could be embassy work, like you mentioned, or we may be able to take you out of that embassy position, but still put you in another position overseas. We do have overseas contracts. We call them OCONUS positions. So we could possibly not have it at your specific location, but we might have something in Wiesbaden. So your command would go ahead and approve you to do your SkillBridge there. So there's a lot of options. You just have to get a hold of us and work with us. We do have a email address. It is skillbridge@gdit.com. We've made it pretty simple. So if people have additional questions, skillbridge@gdit.com.
All right. Well, thanks. And again, like we said, the SkillBridge is one of those things where a lot of stuff can be done. It just depends on how things play out. And I think that's, Peter had mentioned connecting with people. You can find Trudy, Peter, Rupali, myself. You find us all on LinkedIn, and this is a good opportunity when you're seeing folks to reach out and send that connection request. Hey, I saw you on the ClearedJobs.Net Military Monday. Can we connect? And these are the types of, because they're going to be kind of case by case, is what Trudy's saying. I had another question that came in too. That's more, I don't want to say run of the mill, but probably something you hear a lot. Someone said, Daniel said, I noticed the majority of GDIT job posts state possessing a certain security clearance, but it also states the clearance must be able to be obtained. So do candidates have to have a clearance to be considered for these positions? That's a question that we get pretty often, I think, when we see job postings. How would any of your team answer that? Peter, Trudy, or Polly, anybody?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the role. Some roles, they're willing to kind of have you work on class work until the clearance is adjudicated. And so in those cases, you just need the ability to be able to obtain one. In other cases, you need a clearance kind of day one coming in the door. Fortunately for veterans that are transitioning, most, if not all of them, would have either a secret or a top secret. And so we're in a pretty good starting place already, I think, with those folks.
I would like to tack on something really quickly to that. If you are looking for employment, the best place to get the most accurate information is going to be our career page. So that's going to be www.gdit.careers. and it is in the posting. When you open up that requisition in the upper left-hand corner at the very top, it will tell you the specific clearance that is needed to be considered for that position. So that could help a little bit. It's not as easy to find on LinkedIn and Indeed. It doesn't pop
Yeah.
out at you. So on our career page, upper left-hand corner, it is right there, easy to find.
And a question that came in after, which was similar, I'm going to tack onto this. Asked the same question about if it requires like a really high level clearance, can I still apply? And correct me if I'm wrong, but the general advice that I give, so please tell me if this is different than for GDIT specifically. The general advice I give to job seekers is look for those keywords like ability to obtain.
Yeah.
It means, hey, we'll entertain things that aren't. If you have, but if it says must require, and a lot of times job descriptions will be very specific. So if it really says must require a polygraph level clearance, that means that your hands are more often tied on your end, right?
That's correct. I mean, a lot of times we obviously have to we have to design our basic qualifications to align to program requirements, and in some cases, those program requirements can't be negotiated out. They're there for a reason, and we have to honor that. I will say, if I could, just two other things along these lines. One thing that you're kind of touching on, which I think we hear a lot of from candidates is, should I apply to jobs where I don't meet all of the basic qualifications, or how do I get around kind of the filtering or AI usage on the front end of the process? And I would say in that regard, a couple of things. One is in our kinds of regulatory environments, a lot of times we're prescribed in terms of the basic requirements. We can't toggle on those. They're set there in the program by the customer, and we need to make sure that everyone that works that position is qualified in that way. So when you're applying for those jobs, I would say be really careful and particular about making sure that you meet those basic qualifications. And, if it's close, you can always reach out, through all the channels that we've talked about here. But I would say focus your job search on the positions where you meet the qualifications. That's going to be the best way. At GDIT, we don't use any kind of AI right now on that front end process. We want the recruiters to evaluate the holistic profiles of candidates as they come in. But a lot of companies do. And so I would say, just make sure that you're making the most of your time by toggling in on those positions and codifying your application to meet those in the best way, and obviously the most accurate way possible. The other thing that I would say, just going back to the question on why GDIT, and I think this is really important because every place that I've worked has been the same in this regard, and that is we've oftentimes failed to properly onboard our transitioning veterans. And so their first year attrition, generally speaking, is much higher than the first year attrition of non-veterans. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. We've touched on a few of them, but, making that holistic, change from, the military into a private sector company is a big jump. And so one thing I would do is make sure that if you're looking at a private sector company, investigate what kind of support they provide to veterans as they're transitioning. Are they accustomed to bringing in transitioning veterans? And what kinds of support are available to you as a veteran coming into the organization? We have a military transition program that provides support in that way. We started a few years ago. We continue to evolve and iterate on that program so that we're providing the best support that we possibly can to transitioning veterans. When we looked at that attrition, that first year attrition prior to that program being implemented, and now our attrition first year with people that participate in that program is almost zero. It's almost negligible.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's the kind of I would just ask, your listeners, think about, is the company that you're looking at, are they willing to make that investment in you? Are they willing to create the environment where you can come in and thrive? I think a lot of companies are well-intentioned, but maybe haven't resourced their teams adequately to provide that level of support. And I'm really proud of what we've done as an organization, and I think it's world-class.
Say, hey, we've got some more questions coming, but we're going to be running out of time. So I will say, if you've got questions out there, we're going to be able to share this link. Maybe some of these folks on here can respond on the LinkedIn afterwards. I can jump in there as well. Before we let everybody, I want to make sure this is a great chance to network, and you can do real networking even on LinkedIn. You've got Peter right there. You can find all of these things on LinkedIn. We've all been tagged into these LinkedIn posts too. So you can find Peter there. Up in the top right is Rupali. You can find her on LinkedIn. Mike Bernard was here for a little bit, but he had to jump off. But then also Trudy is a military talent specialist. I mean, Trudy can be a great entry point into the GDIT folks when you say, hey, I'm a veteran. I've got questions. I mean, that's literally your job, right, Trudy? So those folks are all there. You can always find me. And the other thing that Peter mentioned more than once is asking those questions, getting to know stuff. And one of the great ways to get to know folks is to come to job fairs. We've got job fairs coming up, some in person, some are virtual. The one that's coming up in 2 days, if you're in the Fort Meade area, if you've already gotten, in this case for these job fairs, you have to already have the poly. But if you have a CI or a full scope poly and you want to come to the one near Fort Meade, come and join us. We've got 29 companies that are going to be there, one of which is GDIT. Their team is gonna be at that. You can meet face to face and ask questions about some of those things there. We've got a virtual job fair coming up May 20th for all clearance levels, and then we've got a poly only event in Dulles, Virginia, June 5th. And I'll remind everybody, hey, well, also GDIT is going to be at that one as well. So GDIT is out there looking for folks. If you can't make it to the job fair, submit your resume to the job fair, because those resumes go to all of the companies that are going to be there. So even if you can't make it in person, I would encourage you to register and submit that. But if you can make it in person, go ask the questions, talk to people, mention that you know stuff. You're only going to learn something. And you can see, just listening to Peter and his team here, they're really committed in trying to hire people and do a good job. And that they really are hiring out there. So it's not people just blowing smoke. These are real companies with real jobs looking for real talent, and they want to talk to you. So while I review the comments one more time before we let everybody go, Peter or the team, do you guys have anything else that you want to close up with?
I would just say this, because I started this call by saying, a lot of times companies haven't really thought through how to effectively onboard folks as they're transitioning, and this whole, you're a steward of your own career. That's true, but I feel like it's incumbent on companies to provide the support, not only to veterans, but especially to veterans who are entering a different kind of terrain for the first time. We do have an internal mobility group, which I really want to highlight, because once folks come on board, so you get that first job, you get that skill bridge and graduate into a full-time position at GDIT, then you've got a team of internal mobility specialists that will also help you adjudicate, navigate that path around the organization as you feel like it's time to look maybe for some new opportunities internally. We have a career hub, which is an internal job board that can help people navigate that terrain too. It will also help people look at, hey, if I am doing this today and I'm interested in this kind of a career, what training do I need to get? What kind of experience do I need to get? And we're about ready to increase or evolve that level of support by introducing AI into that career hub as well, so that people have a lot more helpful guideposts that can curate the experience through L&D, learning and development, curate that experience through different job opportunities, and help people navigate the terrain better than I think has been historically the case. So I just thought I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. I'm really excited about it. I think that bodes really well for our employees.
Now, we're going to have to bring you guys back on, because we could have talked another 30 minutes. Easy.
100%.
We could have talked more 30 minutes on what's going on at GDIT and how to help. We appreciate, speaking on behalf of the veterans who are watching this live, those who maybe are going to catch it later on the recorded version, appreciate your help, Peter and Trudy and Rupali. Appreciate everything that GDIT is doing. Look forward to helping you guys find more great talent and helping transitioning veterans land that first job, and hopefully that first job is a good job and they don't have to do this again 8 months later, like you're saying, Peter. So we're going to let everybody go now, but thank you so much for everything. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Cheers.